The green room silence. The cameras hadn't started rolling yet, but tension was already thick in the air. Ana de Armas sat silently in the green room, fingers gently wrapped around a cup of herbal tea. She wore a soft blue blouse and slacks, casual yet elegant, and her eyes were glued to the muted TV screen showing clips of past interviews by the host she was about to meet. Clayton Rourke, the infamous late-night talk show anchor known for crossing lines others wouldn't dare. Next to her, KeanuReeves leaned back on the couch with calm composure. Dressed in a simple black jacket, white tee, and jeans, he exuded humility, never trying to outshine anyone in the room, never trying to be anything more than present. That was one of the reasons Ana admired him so deeply, not just as a colleague, but as a human being. "You sure you're okay with this?" Keanu asked gently. Ana gave a small nod, though her grip on the cup told a different story. "I'm used to it, he's just..." "Words." Keanu paused. "Words matter." Ana glanced up. Their eyes met, and for a moment her confidence flickered back. He always had that effect, a groundedness that reminded her she had the right to be respected. Behind the curtains, the stage crew moved fast. Lights adjusted. Audience murmurs began to swell. Clayton Rourke, larger than life and smug as ever, paced the backstage hall with a grin. He didn't dislike Ana de Armas. In fact, he thought she was beautiful, a perfect target. But that was the issue. For Clayton, beauty meant leverage. To him, a woman on his show was either decoration or controversy, and tonight, he had both. "Keanu's the nice guy," Clayton told his assistant as they walked toward the studio entrance. "But Ana, she's got bite. Let's see if she can take a joke." The assistant didn't answer. They'd seen this play out before, and it rarely ended well. The opening act. The live band struck up a jazzy intro, and the crowd applauded as the theme music boomed. Clayton walked onto the stage like a man owning the world. "Ladies and gentlemen, what a night we've got planned. KeanuReeves and Ana de Armas in the house." Thunderous applause. Clayton waved it down. "Now, before we bring them out, can we talk about how the internet is losing its mind over their new movie? I mean, I saw it and I couldn't focus. Not with Ana walking around like that in every scene. Hello?" Laughter rippled through the crowd, though a few people exchanged uncertain glances. "But seriously," Clayton continued, "when I found out Ana was cast, I thought, oh, they finally found a way to make the role all about tight dresses and slow-motion hair flips. Am I right?" More forced laughter. In the green room, Ana's expression didn't change, but Keanu sat forward. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "We can leave." But Ana breathed in deeply, straightened her shoulders, and stood. "No," she said. "Let's go show them who we are." The interview begins. The spotlight turned to the stage entrance. Clayton welcomed them with wide arms. "Please welcome two of the stars from the hottest film of the year, KeanuReeves and Ana de Armas." Applause thundered again. Keanu and Ana walked onto the set with grace. Keanu greeted the host with a polite nod, Ana with a brief smile. They took their seats facing the crowd, the lights, and the smirking man before them. "Keanu, buddy, you're always a pleasure," Clayton began. "You make us feel like humanity still has hope." Keanu chuckled gently. "I do what I can." "And Ana," Clayton turned. "What can I say? You really light up the screen. I mean, when you walk into a scene, the whole frame just glows." Ana offered a diplomatic smile. Clayton leaned in. "I gotta ask though, did you have to fight for this role, or did you just show up in heels and win the room?" The room fell into a hush. Ana blinked. Keanu's smile faded. The shift, the silence, was deafening. Then Keanu spoke. His tone was measured, calm, but held the power of an ocean just before a wave. "I don't think that question deserves a response," he said. Clayton chuckled, trying to brush it off. "Come on, Keanu. It's just a joke." Keanu looked at the audience, then back at Clayton. "No, it isn't." You asked a hardworking, incredibly talented actress if she got her role because of her looks. That's not funny, that's lazy. And it's disrespectful. Clayton blinked, visibly taken aback. Ana sat still, eyes wide. Keanu continued, voice steady. You invited us here to talk about our work, our craft. Ana trained for this role for months. She worked every day, studied, learned choreography, gave everything to bring this character to life, and you reduced it to heels. A murmur swept through the audience. I didn't mean it like that, Clayton started. Then maybe you should think before speaking, Keanu said, not raising his voice. Because what you say, and how you say it, shapes what people believe is okay. The silence in the room became applause. First one person, then another. Soon, it filled the studio. Clayton looked stunned. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. Ana placed her hand gently on Keanu's arm and whispered, "Thank you." After the show backstage was silent, Ana exhaled slowly, feeling as if a weight had been lifted, not because the insult was erased, but because it hadn't gone unchecked. She turned to Keanu. "Why did you do that?" He smiled softly. "Because no one else should have to." That night, the interview clip went viral. Not for the insult, but for the kindness, respect, and quiet strength one man showed in the face of ignorance. But this was only the beginning. Because what followed would shake the entire industry. The fallout. The morning after the interview aired, the world had changed. News outlets were already rolling out headlines. Keanu Reeves defends Ana de Armas on air, stuns talk show host. Respect on display. A masterclass by Keanu Reeves. Clayton Rourke's sexist comment sparks backlash after interview. Clips flooded social media. The moment Keanu had stood up, not with anger or ego but with calm, powerful truth, became a rallying cry. Not just for Ana, not just for actors, but for every woman who had ever been overlooked, interrupted, disrespected, or reduced to appearances. Ana's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from actresses, producers, fans, journalists, some in support, others asking for interviews, and a few just wanting to say, thank you. Ana sat on her balcony overlooking Los Angeles, still wearing her morning robe, the sun barely rising over the city. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen. Mom, 6:42 a.m. I saw the interview. You were grace under fire. I'm so proud of you. And that Keanu... What a soul. Ana smiled softly. That was her mother's way. She'd never been into fame or flashy names, but she always had a radar for integrity, and Keanu had shown that in the purest form. Ana typed a quick reply, then looked out at the skyline. She didn't feel triumphant. Not really. More aware. That moment, which had happened so fast, was now in the hands of the public. And they would shape what came next. Meanwhile, Keanu was already back on his motorcycle. He didn't own a smartphone. Never had. That wasn't a statement, just preference. He didn't scroll Twitter or refresh Instagram. He liked trees more than screens. But even he could feel the air shift that morning when he walked into his local cafe and heads turned, not with stares, but with acknowledgement. Hey, Keanu, said the barista behind the counter. That was something last night. Keanu gave a half smile. You watched it? Yeah, she said, pressing buttons on the espresso machine. You said what a lot of us wish we could say. Thanks. He nodded, humbly. I just did what felt right. You did more than that, she replied, sliding over his black coffee. You gave people permission to speak up, that matters. The network's boardroom. A storm brews at the head office of the talk show's network. A crisis meeting was already underway. The executive team wasn't just concerned about PR, they were in full damage control mode. Clayton crossed a line, said a senior producer. Again. But this time someone like Keanu called it out. Publicly. Now we've got sponsors threatening to pull out. One of the legal reps leaned forward. We either issue an apology immediately or we deal with the fallout later. Your call. The room buzzed with tension. Clayton Rourke wasn't just a host, he had contracts, ratings, leverage. But now, that leverage was slipping. Clayton's world begins to crumble in a lavish penthouse, far removed from the mood of the public. Clayton Rourke scrolled through endless headlines on his tablet. Every swipe was a reminder of how fast public opinion could turn. He'd been the king of late-night television for over a decade. Untouchable, sharp, smug. And now he was being called a dinosaur, outdated, offensive. A reminder of everything that needs to change. He threw the tablet across the room, where it hit the couch and bounced to the floor. His phone buzzed. Publicist, 9:02 a.m. You need to apologize, and it needs to be sincere. Keanu's words are echoing, louder than ours. You're losing this. A private conversation later that day, Ana sat at a quiet restaurant tucked away in West Hollywood. A place without paparazzi. Just good food, good lighting, and privacy. Keanu arrived on his motorcycle, still wearing the same jacket from the night before. Always low-key, always grounded. Ana rose to greet him. You're becoming something of a folk hero, she teased gently. He smiled. That was never the plan. They sat, ordered tea. No cameras, no pressure, just a conversation between friends who had been through something seismic. Thank you again, Ana said, for not staying silent. Keanu leaned forward. You shouldn't have to thank me. That's the problem, isn't it? It should be normal to treat people with respect. Ana nodded. But it's not. Not for women. Especially in this industry. There was a long pause. Keanu didn't rush to fill it. He never did. Then he said, You know, I've seen this happen too many times. Talented women reduced to objects. Young actors mocked for trying to be more than their image. And every time someone stays silent, it becomes more normal. Ana looked into his eyes, searching. So why now? She asked. Why speak up this time? Keanu shrugged lightly. Because the world is watching. And maybe someone out there saw it and realized they deserve better too. Across the country, a girl watches. In a small town in Missouri, a teenage girl named Lily sat at her kitchen table, laptop open. She had just seen the clip of the interview. She wasn't famous, she wasn't even in drama club. But she'd been told more than once that she wasn't the right look, or should smile more, or be quieter. She watched Keanu's calm rebuke. She saw the fire in Ana's eyes, the dignity, the strength, and she felt something she hadn't in a long time. She felt seen. She closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and walked into the living room where her father was watching. Sports, Dad, she said. I want to try out for the school play. He looked surprised. You sure? She nodded. I think I'm ready. A movement begins. That one moment on live TV became more than a soundbite. It became a symbol. Producers began re-evaluating their scripts. Networks started enforcing new codes of conduct. Agents called out disrespect during meetings. Actresses shared stories and found allies willing to listen. It wasn't about Keanu being a hero. It was about people remembering what real integrity looked like and deciding they wanted to be part of that. Back in the studio, Clayton Rourke eventually issued a public apology. Not because he believed it, but because he had to. The audience didn't buy it. His ratings dropped. His advertisers pulled away, and within months the show was quietly put on hiatus. In his place, a new host, a woman, sharp, insightful, respectful, and brilliant. The ripples of truth 3 weeks had passed. The clip of Keanu's calm but piercing defense of Ana had been viewed over 70 million times. Talk shows analyzed it. Morning news ran debates. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from praise to tears to renewed conversations about workplace sexism, celebrity ethics, and the power of quiet resistance. But beneath the headlines, the real impact was happening where no camera could reach. The Classroom Awakening, in a performing arts college in New York, Professor Lillian Harris stood before a room of young actors. The screen behind her had just replayed the now iconic moment where Keanu had looked Clayton Rourke in the eye and said, "That question doesn't deserve a response." She turned to the class. "Now," she asked, "why did that work?" Hands went up. "He stayed calm," said one student. "He didn't embarrass Ana further by speaking over her," said another. "He used his power the right way," a third added. Professor Harris nodded. "Exactly. What Keanu did wasn't about showing off. It wasn't even about being a hero. It was about decency. And that's why it echoed louder than shouting ever could." One student in the back raised her hand hesitantly. "Professor, do you think things are really changing?" Lillian paused. "Change never happens overnight, but sometimes all it takes is one person doing the right thing at the right time, and a door cracks open for everyone else." Ana's letter to herself. That night, Ana sat in her study alone. She'd just returned from a press tour where every journalist wanted to ask the same thing. How did it feel to have Keanu defend her? They weren't asking about her film anymore, not about her performance, not about her work. Just that one moment. And as grateful as she was for Keanu's support, it stung that her entire value had now been redefined again, this time as the woman Keanu protected. She opened a blank notebook, one she usually reserved for creative notes. Instead, she began to write a letter, not to the world, not to the press, but to herself. "Ana, remember who you are. You are not famous because you are beautiful. You are not relevant because someone defended you. You are worthy because of the fire you carry, the stories you tell, the truth you dare to live. Keep choosing grace. Keep doing the work. Keep showing up even when they expect you to shrink. You are not here to be looked at. You are here to be heard." She closed the notebook. No one else would ever see the letter, but she felt taller afterward. Keanu's dinner with the studio head. Meanwhile, Keanu was invited to a private dinner by one of the major studio heads in Los Angeles. Not unusual for a man of his stature, but this meeting wasn't about his next film. It was about something bigger. "Keanu," said the executive after their starters were cleared, "I've been thinking about what you said on Rourke's show." Keanu said nothing, letting him continue. "I've had young actresses come to me over the years, telling me stories, and I always thought, that's the industry, that's just how it is. But now, I realize that was just an excuse not to act." Keanu sipped his tea. The exec leaned in. "I want to do something different. I want to create a set environment where these things don't happen anymore. And I want you to help build that." Keanu blinked. "You want me to consult?" "I want you to co-lead. Design the code. Train the leadership. Shape the future." For a moment, Keanu thought about the past, of young actors he'd worked with, who had been belittled, cast aside, or objectified. He nodded slowly. "I'll do it. But only if we bring in the right people, diverse voices, real survivors, people with lived experience." The studio head smiled. "Done." Clayton Rourke's disguise. While the world moved on and systems began to shift, Clayton Rourke wasn't in a studio anymore. He'd gone dark, fired quietly by the network, dropped by 2 agencies, lost 3 of his endorsements, and his planned book deal was postponed indefinitely. He walked through the streets of downtown LA, now in sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to escape the looks, some angry, others smug, but most indifferent. He was no longer feared, no longer respected, just a reminder of a bygone era. Sitting alone in a diner, he watched the television as a new talk show aired, a smart, witty Latina host who just interviewed Ana and let her talk without interruption. Clayton shook his head and muttered, "Everything's changed." He wasn't wrong. The anonymous letter at Keanu's home, tucked between a letter from his publisher and a script from a small indie director, sat a handwritten envelope. No return address. Inside was a card that simply read, "I watched what you did. I've worked in this town for 20 years and thought I had to laugh it off, keep quiet, play along. But that night something clicked. You reminded me I still have a voice. Thank you, just another actress. Keanu sat back, card in hand. He didn't smile. He didn't need to, because he knew. This was the real reward, not the applause, not the headlines, but the whispers of people finding their courage again. The girl in the desert, in a quiet desert town in Arizona, a 45-year-old single mother named Elena, sat watching a replay of the interview. Her daughter, just 10 years old, had asked earlier that week why the boys at school told her she was too loud and should act more like a girl. And for the first time, Elena didn't just say ignore them. She sat with her daughter and played the clip. Watch this, she said. This is what it looks like when someone tells the truth. Afterward, her daughter looked up and said, I want to be like him. No, Elena replied. You be like you, and don't let anyone shrink you. A gentle revolution. By the end of the month, Keanu and Ana co-founded a new initiative called Screen Respect. It wasn't a charity. It was a movement. Workshops for young actors, mandatory training for casting directors, anonymous reporting systems for abuse or misconduct on set, and a mentorship program where industry veterans would guide newcomers, not with fame or flash, but with wisdom and humanity. They didn't announce it with a gala. They didn't want cameras, just change. Keanu didn't speak about it in interviews, but the industry felt it. And Ana? She found her voice louder than ever before, not because of what had happened, but because she had finally realized she never needed permission to be powerful. The offer that shook Hollywood, it started with a phone call. Ana de Armas was in the middle of reviewing final edits for her next film, a psychological drama where she played a deeply layered, emotionally wounded war photographer, when her assistant knocked on the door. Ana, you need to take this, she said, holding the phone like it was made of glass. Ana took the call, half distracted. Hello? A calm, well-known voice greeted her. This is Madison Hartley, CEO of Paramount Studios. I hope I'm not interrupting. Ana's heart skipped. No, not at all, she replied, unsure where this was going. I'll be blunt, Madison said. We've been watching the way you've carried yourself these past few weeks, with dignity, with strength, and with power. We believe you're the future of this industry, not just in front of the camera, but behind it. Ana sat up straight. We'd like to offer you a first-look deal. You produce. You choose the scripts. You shape the stories. Ana blinked. I don't even have a company. We'll help you start one. You'll have full creative control. All we ask is that you do what you've already been doing. Make this industry better. The whisper turns into thunderword traveled fast. A-list actresses, long trapped in roles that boxed them into cliches, began reaching out. Writers, female, queer, Latinx, Black, South Asian, disabled, began submitting scripts they'd kept hidden in drawers for years. And Keanu, he was the first to send her a congratulatory letter. Not a text, not an email. An actual handwritten note. Ana, the world doesn't change with loud declarations. It changes when someone quietly decides to stop accepting what's broken. Thank you for being that someone. I'm proud of you. Ana folded the letter and placed it beside her bed. It didn't feel real, but it was. Meanwhile, in a studio, boardroom executives were panicking. The Clayton Rourke incident had ignited a fire across Hollywood. And now Ana's production company, tentatively named Luna Rising, was rumored to be developing a slate of films that centered women as complex, resilient, and powerful, with no tolerance for stereotypical tropes or backhanded compliments from outdated hosts. Some suits were dismissive. This is just a trend, the public will move on. But others, particularly the younger executives, weren't so sure. One junior executive stood up and said, "You can call it a trend, or we can call it a reckoning. Either way, we're not going back." The invitation weeks later, Ana received another call, this one from an unexpected source, the Film Academy. They were preparing a keynote summit focused on the future of cinema. And they didn't want her to just attend. They wanted her to open the summit with a keynote. "Me?" she asked. "Yes," said the chairwoman. "There's a reason women across the world see you as more than an actress now. You stood still while the world expected you to shrink, and now it's time to speak." Ana hesitated. Her heart raced. But somewhere deep inside she knew. This was bigger than fear. This was the moment. The speech that echoed around the world on. The day of the keynote, the auditorium was packed with over 1,000 of Hollywood's most influential figures, and streaming live to millions worldwide. Ana took the stage. No grand dress. No makeup overload. Just a navy suit and the truth. She stood silently for a moment, allowing the room to settle. Then she spoke. 3 months ago, I was asked if I won a role because I wore heels. And for a moment, I felt the weight of every actress who has had her voice questioned, her body praised before her talent, her silence mistaken for acceptance. But I didn't stand up that day. Someone else did. A friend. A man who didn't make it about him. Who didn't grandstand or scold, but simply said, "That question doesn't deserve a response." That moment wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. Today I stand here not just because of that moment, but because I finally realized something powerful. We don't need to fit into their stories anymore. We can write our own. And starting now, I'm building a space where women, outsiders, dreamers, everyone who's been told not you, not yet, can tell the stories they were born to tell. There was no applause break, just stillness, tears, goosebumps, and then a standing ovation that shook the stage. Keanu watches in silence. Back in his home, Keanu watched Ana's speech live. He sat alone in his living room sipping tea. He didn't post a tweet, didn't call a reporter, didn't even call Ana. He simply smiled, because for him, this was the win. The spotlight didn't need to return to him. He'd used it once exactly how he needed to, and now Ana was carrying the torch further than he ever could. An industry reborn. Soon after Ana's speech, Luna Rising announced its first 3 projects. Daughter of the Dust, a historical epic about a young black woman leading a resistance during colonial Cuba. Off script. A dark comedy about a washed-up male director who's forced to take acting lessons from a rising female star. The Space Between. A sci-fi romance about 2 women from rival planets who fall in love while negotiating peace. Each one was bold, audacious, different. Studios started scrambling to follow suit. Female directors were being hired at record rates. Script readers were trained to avoid biased assumptions, and pay transparency became the next battleground. The wave Keanu had sparked wasn't just a moment. It had become a movement. Backstage, a quiet reunion. Months later, Ana and Keanu finally crossed paths again, this time backstage at a private charity event supporting women in film. They embraced gently. "You made waves," Keanu said softly. Ana laughed. "No, we did." He nodded. "You did the hard part. You told your truth." Ana looked at him. "You helped me remember it." They didn't say much else, they didn't need to. Because in a town built on appearances and applause, truth had finally taken center stage. And its echo was just getting started. The backlash and the backbone with every movement forward. Resistance always follows. And for Ana de Armas, the moment she dared to rise beyond the role of actress into architect of change, the quiet walls of Hollywood began to shake. Not from applause this time, but from power struggling to hold onto its last strands of control, because not everyone in the industry applauded her keynote. Not everyone saw the truth as a torch. Some saw it as a threat. The Whisper campaign begins. It started subtly. Anonymous quotes in tabloid articles criticizing Ana's leadership style. Too emotional to run a studio. One article claimed, "She's alienating key male creatives." Another hinted, "KeanuReeves is the real brain behind Luna Rising." A third speculated, twisting their friendship into a false narrative that reduced her success to male assistance. Even respected media outlets, under pressure from powerful studio alliances, began planting doubts. It wasn't just sexist, it was strategic. Because Ana wasn't just creating new content, she was creating new standards, new gateways, and new truths. And that terrified the old guard. Ana feels the pressure mount in a meeting. Room high above Sunset Boulevard, Ana sat at the head of a long oak table. Surrounding her were writers, producers, interns, all women, people of color, queer creatives, survivors, dreamers. They were building something that had never been done in Hollywood before, and it was working. But on this day, Ana couldn't focus. Her assistant handed her the latest article. Headline: Ana de Armas, Star or Storm. She didn't speak. She didn't cry, but her eyes lingered on the photo they used. Cropped mid-blink, unflattering, cold. For the first time in months, doubt crept in. Was she being too bold? Too loud? Too much? She excused herself and stepped onto the balcony, breathing in the soft evening air as the sun dipped over LA. That's when her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu. You okay? Saw the press today. Just remember this. When systems get nervous, they bite. That means you're doing it right. Kana stared at the message. Then, she replied, why does it feel so lonely sometimes? Keanu's response came almost instantly. Because you're the one clearing the path, and everyone else is still learning how to follow it. Meanwhile, in the shadows across town, in an executive mansion wrapped in modern art and marble, 3 studio heads sat around a private bar with glasses of aged whiskey. She's getting too much attention, one grumbled. She's threatening the hierarchy, another added. They weren't angry about diversity. They were angry about losing control, losing their chokehold over narratives, over access over who gets to succeed. One leaned in. I have a friend at a major investment group. Let's cut her funding, quietly, pull back without fingerprints. Another nodded. We'll frame it as her failing to deliver, keep her busy with damage control. It was a move perfected over decades. Destroy the foundation, not the figurehead. Let them collapse under the weight of the dream they dared to build. Funding disappears. Overnight, within 48 hours, 3 major backers pulled out of Luna Rising's upcoming projects. 2 citing internal redirection of priorities, the third simply going silent. Budget deadlines were missed. Contracts stalled. Crew members, unsure of what was happening, began whispering about layoffs. The dream was shaking, and Ana was at the center of it. Alone, or so they thought. The unexpected meeting at the Luna Rising office. Ana sat late into the night, fingers trembling slightly as she reviewed spreadsheets and contingency plans. She wasn't crying. Not yet. But it was close. Suddenly her door opened and there stood Keanu Reeves, holding 2 paper bags of Thai food and wearing the same black boots he always wore. I figured you hadn't eaten, he said softly. Ana managed a broken laugh. I'm too busy watching everything fall apart. He walked in, placed the bags down, and sat beside her. No, he said. You're watching everything reveal its true colors. Words that anchored her as they ate quietly in the dim light. Ana opened up. I wanted to believe I was strong enough for this, but I wasn't ready for the cruelty, for the smear campaigns, for people trying to erase everything we're doing. Keanu listened, then set down his drink. You know what makes you different? He asked. You didn't walk into this thinking it would be easy, but you came anyway. That's not weakness. That's courage. Ana looked at him, unsure what to say. He continued, You're facing fire, but you're not burning. You're forging something new. He leaned back. And that's why they're afraid. The return of an old ally just as Ana was preparing to downscale projects to keep the company afloat. A new email arrived. Subject line. We believe in your voice. It was from a woman named Claire Moreno, head of a global streaming platform. I watched what they're doing to you, the message read. I went through the same. They tried to silence me with contracts and backdoor sabotage. I survived, and now I'm in a position to fight back. She offered not just funding, but full creative autonomy. No strings, no fear, just a platform, ready to amplify Luna Rising's vision. Ana smiled through tears and replied, "Let's build something louder than silence." Backlash becomes breakthrough. The moment news leaked that Luna Rising had not only recovered, but had inked a historic deal with a global platform, the industry lost its mind. Suddenly, Ana wasn't just a symbol, she was a storm that had survived. Her upcoming slate of films was restored and expanded. Her staff received raises and healthcare upgrades. And most importantly, she was no longer alone. Other women in power began revealing similar stories: hidden sabotage, financial threats, media manipulation, and together, they created the foundation for Fair Futures, a collective of industry leaders, actors, writers, and producers focused on dismantling systemic bias, not just with speeches, but with policies, training, and funding support. Clayton Rourke watches from afar. In a rundown condo with blinds drawn and ego bruised beyond repair, Clayton Rourke watched a news segment about Ana's foundation. He sipped his drink and muttered, "It was just a joke." But even he knew the truth. Jokes don't collapse systems. Integrity does. A night of recognition, at a private gala hosted by the Film Academy months later, Ana de Armas received the inaugural Catalyst Award for Courage in Storytelling. As she stood, at the podium, the entire room rose in applause. Keanu sat near the back, clapping slowly, eyes glinting with quiet pride. And for the first time, Ana didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was finally thriving. Not because they handed her a stage, but because she built one herself and made it big enough for everyone else to stand on too. When the past knocks, success has a shadow. For Ana de Armas, that shadow came not in the form of headlines or lawsuits, but a quiet envelope slipped under her office door. There was no name, no return address. Just a faded stamp from a small village in western Cuba and a single handwritten note inside. "You've forgotten where you came from, but I haven't. We need to talk." Ana's heart stilled. She knew exactly who it was. The name she had buried: Maria Velázquez, her mentor, her first acting teacher. The woman who gave her a notebook filled with Shakespeare monologues and said, "Your voice can change the world, if you don't let the world change it first." Maria had been the reason Ana even dared to dream. But something had happened years ago. Something Ana had buried so deep, she wasn't sure she remembered it clearly anymore. A casting director had visited their village. A rare opportunity. Maria had pushed Ana forward, told her to audition. But afterward, rumors spread that Maria was angry Ana had gotten the offer instead of a girl from her own family. That Ana had left the village with a role that others believed wasn't earned. No one ever confronted her. No one ever said it outright. But Ana never heard from Maria again. And now, just when Ana had built something extraordinary, the silence was broken. The return journey. 3 days later, Ana flew under a different name, took no entourage, and landed on the edge of her homeland. She wore jeans, a plain sweater, and walked the sun-beaten streets like a stranger retracing her own story. Children laughed in the same alleyways. Grandmothers sold fruit on the same dusty corners. But time had touched everything with quiet erosion, and then just past the corner of the old theater, there she was. Maria, older now. Her once black curls now silver, but still holding that same sharp posture, eyes that could pierce stage lights and lies alike. Ana approached slowly. Maria looked up from the bench. "You came," she said, not surprised. "I had to," Ana replied. They sat in silence for several moments, the sound of wind and distant music filling the space. "I watched your speech," Maria said finally. "All of it. Your foundation, your awards, the films." Ana nodded. "And yet, you sent a letter, not a congratulations." "I didn't want to applaud the mask," Maria said, turning to face her fully. "I wanted to speak to the girl who used to cry in my arms because no one believed she could be more than pretty." Ana swallowed. That girl still exists. Then why did you never come back? A long-awaited truth. Ana hesitated. Because I was ashamed. Of what? Of leaving. Of succeeding. Of taking a chance that others here never got. I thought, if I returned, they'd say I abandoned them. Maria's voice softened. We never needed you to stay. We just needed you to remember that your voice began here. Ana felt tears welling up, tears she hadn't expected. Maria reached into her satchel and pulled out a weathered book. Ana gasped. It was the same notebook, the one Maria had gifted her over 2 decades ago. Only now, it was filled with new voices. Young girls, daring lines, scribbled dreams. I used it for every girl who reminded me of you, Maria said. Girls no one believed in, girls who needed one page to see who they could become. Ana reached out, hands trembling, and took the notebook back into her life. Back in Los Angeles, a new proposal. While Ana was reconnecting with her roots, Keanu was fielding an unexpected call. It was from a university. They wanted him to co-design a curriculum on ethics and representation in film, a program for students learning not just how to act but how to lead. He declined, but then he added, I won't teach, but I'll mentor, quietly, privately, one-on-one, and I'll bring someone with me who knows what it means to rise and carry others with her. That someone was Ana's new project, a full-circle moment. Weeks later, Ana announced Luna Rising's newest short film project, The Voice Left Behind. A story about a small-town girl in Cuba whose acting coach gives her a notebook and a dream. Maria was credited as executive story consultant. The film was shot in her hometown. Every actor was local. Every crew member was new. Every scene, an echo of the life Ana had once lived. When the short premiered at an indie festival, the audience was stunned into silence by its rawness. One reviewer wrote, "This isn't a film. It's a love letter to the people who believed in us before the world ever knew our name." And Keanu. Always watching, at the small premiere, Keanu stood quietly in the back, hands in pockets, unnoticed by most, glowing with quiet pride. When Ana found him afterward, she simply hugged him. "You were right," she whispered. "I didn't lose myself. I just had to remember who I was before they told me who to be." Keanu smiled. "You weren't lost," he said. "You were just becoming." The closing words in a private interview months later, Ana was asked, "If you could go back to that moment on the talk show when Clayton Rourke insulted you, would you do anything differently?" She smiled. "No, because that moment didn't define me. But what happened after did. And sometimes it takes someone else standing up for you to realize you deserve to stand tall for yourself." She paused, then added, "Kindness isn't weakness. Integrity isn't noise. And silence. That's where the real stories are hiding, waiting for someone brave enough to speak them out loud." The legacy of Quiet Giants 2 years later. The world had changed. Stories once deemed too bold or too emotional now dominated global box offices and awards lists. The industry, though still imperfect, had shifted. Inclusion was no longer a checkbox. It was an expectation. At the heart of this transformation stood 2 quiet figures. One, a woman who rose not by screaming louder, but by lifting others higher. The other, a man who had simply said enough at the right moment and let respect echo louder than rage. Ana de Armas and KeanuReeves. They never called themselves revolutionaries, but the world did. The global award was a crisp spring evening in Geneva, Switzerland. The city buzzed with international press and dignitaries gathered for the Global Cultural Impact Awards, a ceremony that rarely honored film personalities, instead focusing on change-makers, peace-builders, and humanitarians. This year, something different happened. 2 names were called. For their relentless commitment to compassion, dignity, and artistic integrity, Ana de Armas and KeanuReeves. The hall stood in thunderous applause. Ana wore a sleek ivory suit, elegant but unpretentious, Keanu stood beside her in a simple black tux, no tie, calm and steady as always. As they walked onto the stage, neither one smiled theatrically. They just looked at each other for a quiet second. Two warriors who never asked for the battle but fought anyway. Ana's speech, "The future speaks." Ana stepped to the podium first. She took a breath and began. "I grew up in a town where dreams were considered luxury, where acting was something people did in magazines, not real life. But I was lucky. Someone gave me a notebook. Someone believed in me. And when I forgot that belief, someone else reminded me, we don't all get handed power. Most of us have to take it back, slowly, kindly, and unapologetically. This award is not for me. It's for the young girl writing monologues by candlelight. It's for the woman told she's too much in meetings. It's for anyone who dared to speak and was told to sit down." The room stood again. But Ana stepped back and this time motioned to Keanu. Keanu's speech. A whisper that shook the world. Keanu approached the podium, eyes scanning the crowd with the same humility that had carried him his entire life. "I've been in film for decades. I've been told I'm kind, quiet, soft-spoken. But kindness is not weakness. It takes strength to be still in a storm. It takes more courage to speak up for someone else than for yourself." That moment on a talk show long ago wasn't about being brave. It was about being human. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people willing to listen, willing to care, and willing to say that's not okay. No applause broke his speech. Not yet, because the room was still, moved, changed, and then the standing ovation returned, not just for the words, but for the truth wrapped inside them. The ripple continues back in Los Angeles. High schools began screening The Voice Left Behind in classrooms. Colleges launched scholarships under the Luna Rising Mentorship Grant, which now had over 200 mentees. A new talk show host, a young Afro-Latina comedian named Sofia Rivera, rose to fame not for roasting guests, but for amplifying their dignity. She often cited her favorite quote, "Integrity isn't noise." Keanu Reeves, Ana, and Keanu were invited as her first guests. Maria's last message. One morning, Ana received a letter from Cuba. It was from Maria. The handwriting trembled. "I'm not long for this world, Querida, but I want you to know, you turned whispers into winds. You carried the fire further than I ever imagined. Keep passing the notebook." With love, Mariana cried quietly as she held the letter. Then she mailed a replica of the original notebook to a new group of girls in Havana. Blank pages waiting for new dreams. One last visit, months later, Keanu and Ana met at a small, quiet park. No press, no cameras, just two benches and an oak tree that had seen better decades. Keanu sat sipping coffee. Ana arrived with her own cup and a worn notebook in hand. "I brought something," she said. She handed him a page. It wasn't a letter. It was a monologue. One Ana had written for a new script called The Man Who Listened. She had written the lead role for him. "I couldn't think of anyone else," she whispered. Keanu looked at the lines. They were simple, humble, but true. He smiled. "I'll do it, but only if you direct it." Ana blinked. "You're serious?" He nodded. "Time for you to lead from behind the lens, too." The final scene, a stage rebuilt, the next year. The Man Who Listened premiered at Cannes to 10 minutes of applause. Not because it was flashy, not because it was loud, but because it was honest. It told the story of a man who didn't rescue the world with fists, but with empathy. Critics called it a masterpiece of minimalism. Viewers called it a mirror to our better selves. Ana called it the most important story I've ever told. And Keanu? He just bowed his head in quiet gratitude. And so the story ends, or begins. They never set out to change the world. They just refused to let it keep spinning the wrong way. And in doing so, Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves became something Hollywood rarely celebrates: kind, consistent, and courageously human.